How about that new mod system, eh? I'm just kidding, this is a build video, and the most powerful build in the game just went Super Saiyan. I am of course talking about Dawnblade with Starfire Protocol, a build that is so strong you can burn down the final boss in the legendary campaign while ignoring everything else. Okay, I've got a quick question. Who else, when they first logged on to Lightfall, immediately opened up the store to check if Starfire got an ornament? Only to see Dawn Chorus looking, well, that actually looks kinda good.
Next time, baby.
Anyway, Starfire was already up there as one of the Warlock's best available builds. It has insane grenade and rift regen, where all weapon damage you cause while standing in an empowering rift or a well will refund 20% of your grenade energy per damage tick, and each grenade kill completely refunds your rift ability. This is why Wither Horde is usually the weapon of choice to pair with this, as you can simply tag something, and as Wither Horde ticks damage away, you get a constant stream of energy allowing you to spam fusion grenades. But Starfire's biggest drawback was surviving between wells, as you're pretty much tied to using an empowering rift to get the most out of it. This is where the new fragments and mods come in, allowing the best build in the game to get even better. The best build in the world. It was the best build in the world. Since the Starfire exotic on its own covers all the regen for our ability loop, we can dedicate our fragments and mods towards healing, damage reduction, or weapon damage. Here's a build card showing you the entire build, and there will also be a Destiny item manager link in the description. If you guys find this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe by clicking that little red, or maybe it's black now, whatever color that button is today, and click the little like or dislike, whatever. Let's first look at all the various ways we will be adding healing to the build, starting with the new fragments. First, there's Ember of Mercy, which grants us restoration upon picking up a fire sprite. To create a fire sprite, we're going to want to take the updated Ember of Searing, which now creates fire sprites from defeating scorched targets. Unfortunately, the restoration you get from this only lasts for 2 seconds, and picking up another fire sprite just resets the counter back to 2. It doesn't add more time. I had initially thought that building into restoration with either Ember of Solace and or Empyrean to lengthen the duration would be the play. But then you're pretty much dedicating all 4 of your fragments to this, and you lose the ability to proc easy ignitions without Ember of Ashes. Plus, as I said, picking up another fire sprite just resets you back to 2 seconds of restoration anyway. So scratch that. Instead of Solace and Empyrean, let's take Ember of Resolve, which just heals us on grenade kills. So we have an easy way to heal up without needing to run around to pick up anything, but we're also going to have fire sprites for when you're pushing forward and running between cover. With just 1 fragment slot left, we'll of course take Ember of Ashes to increase the amount of Scorch we apply for those easy ignitions. This leaves us with Ember of Mercy, Resolve, Ashes, and Searing for our fragments. So now our grenade kills heal us and also create a fire sprite. Picking one of those up heals us with restoration. But not only do our grenades create fire sprites, everything that scorches can create fire sprites, so that means our melee, and if you're running a weapon with incandescent, or an exotic like Sunshot, Polaris Lance, or Prometheus Lens, then everything we do will be creating these fire sprites. But not only does Ember of Searing create fire sprites, but killing scorched targets also recharges our melee, so now any action, whether it's using our weapon, grenade, melee, recharges all our other abilities for an insane loop. Okay, so that's the healing we added from our subclass, and it's incredibly strong, much better than the old Heal Thyself mod, as we don't have to be charged up for it to work. Just got a grenade kill or pick up a fire sprite, easy enough. But I wanted to take this further with the new mod Emergency Reinforcement. This is basically Protective Light, as when our shields break, we gain damage reduction, and this would consume all stacks of armor charge we have. Unfortunately, it seems that Emergency Reinforcement only provides roughly 10% damage reduction, which pales in comparison to the original Protective Light or even Well of Tenacity. We would be much better off running Static Resist mods in our chest, which provide 15% damage reduction per mod to that specific type of damage, and up to 25% if you stack 2. So with this knowledge, I'd like to run something like Sniper Resist, Concussive Dampener, and maybe Solar Resist if I know I'm dealing with a ton of solar damage. So if we're not running Emergency Reinforcement, that means we can leverage our armor charge system to boost our weapon damage. But let's rewind. We first gain armor charges by picking up an Orb of Power, and in this build, literally everything we do can create an orb. So first, looking at our helmet, we're going to run 1 Harmonic Siphon mod. On our gloves, we will run 2 Firepower mods and also 1 Heavy-Handed mod. This means our grenades, melees, and weapons can create orbs of power, with the grenade orbs being slightly stronger because we're running 2 firepower mods. Now that we have our orb generators, there are two paths we can take. If you want more survivability, in our leg armor we can slot in both recuperation, which replenishes health on orb pickup, as well as better already, which starts our health regen. This makes it much safer running across the battlefield, as you're going to have both fire sprites and orbs of power to keep you alive. However, I think between our grenade kills healing us, fire sprites granting restoration, high uptime on Well of Radiance, and being able to consume a grenade with heat rises for a clutch heal, we should be fine on the survivability front, and we can instead focus on boosting weapon damage with the new Weapon Surge mod. So with the Weapon Surge mod, while we have an armor charge, we gain 10, 17, or 22% bonus to all weapons with that element, depending on if you're running 1, 2, or 3 Surge mods respectively. This will also make our armor charges decay over time, with the default time being 10 seconds per charge, so with 3 charge we're looking at 30 seconds of bonus damage. That's pretty damn good. To increase this time on our class item, we can slot in time dilation mods, but we could also add additional charges to our chest armor via charged up. Time dilation will increase the time for each stack of armor charge. With one time dilation mod, the timer goes from 10 to 15 seconds for a total of 45 seconds with 3 charges. With 2 mods, we get 18 seconds per charge for a total of 54 seconds. With 3 mods, you get up to 20 seconds per armor charge for a total of 60 seconds. That is a very long time to keep that bonus weapon damage, more than enough time to pick up another orb to keep it going. With full charges, that should last through most damage phases, and it might even be overkill in many cases if orbs are plentiful. So depending upon how many time dilation mods you run, you can definitely forego charged up on your chest for more damage resist mods instead. Personally, I'm settling on 2 dilation mods without charged up, which gives you 54 seconds of the buff, which I think is plenty. So looking at this all together, all our abilities and our weapons can create both orbs of power and fire sprites, with our grenade kills instantly healing us. Picking up those orbs and fire sprites will give us grenade energy, an armor charge, 2 seconds of restoration, and 18 seconds of 22% bonus weapon damage to our element of choice per orb collected. Looking back at the rest of the subclass now, I still think Well of Radiance is the way to go in most content. And even with practically no intellect, you're going to get your super back incredibly fast with double ashes to assets. We're of course going to want to take Empowering Rift, whichever glide you prefer. For melee, Incinerator Snap gives us the most consistent ignition, so take that, and of course Fusion Grenades. For aspects, the only must-have is Touch of Flame to buff our grenades. You can take either Heat Rises or Icarus Dash, depending on the content you're doing. For fights where you are pretty much stationary and Icarus Dash won't see much use, go with Heat Rises for both the melee regen and the ability to consume your grenade for a free heal. This comes in clutch for those times where you can't get a quick grenade kill, like say when you're one-on-one with a beefier enemy like a Tormentor. The rest of the mods are fairly straightforward. One very important artifact mod this season is Authorized Mods Grenades. This lowers the cost of grenade focus mods such as Ashes to Assets and Firepower from 3 points down to 1. You will need to go and resocket those mods if they're already applied in order to get the cheaper cost. It's not applied retroactively when you unlock the artifact perk. When it comes to weapons, nothing's really new here for this build if you've run it before. Witherhoard is still the play, as having constant damage on enemies in the background while you're sitting in your rift is just free grenade energy. For our energy weapon, I like Callus Mini Tool with Incandescent. I think that's still the way to go for its high damage, the ability to both create orbs and scorch targets for more fire sprites. And for heavy, I've been switching between using the linear fusion rifle Cataclysm, grenade, and rocket launchers, just depending on the situation I'm in. Heavy is definitely something that depends on a specific encounter, but I've been leaning on the linear fusion to deal with Tormentors, as you need to hit their weak spots before unloading on them with your grenades. For stats, nothing really has changed here. I think the play is still to go for tier 10 resilience, for damage reduction, then discipline and recovery in that order. Mobility is still pretty much useless. Intellect can largely be ignored again because our grenades are going to have our super back very fast thanks to double ashes to assets, plus all the orbs we're going to be making. And we will get a ton of melee energy just from Ember of Searing plus Heat Rises if we're running that, so strength doesn't do much for us either. You might think that because Starfire gives us back so much grenade energy that you could just ignore discipline and maybe go for intellect or strength. More intellect isn't going to make that much of a difference in how fast you get your super back, but if you accidentally mess up your grenade and rift rotation, you don't want to be waiting around for them to come back, because when that happens, the build comes to a screeching halt. So yeah, I think many of us all saw this build coming with the new fragments when they were teased. Yeah, you give up the larger ignitions and chaining scorched through ignitions, but the ignitions themselves still do the same damage, and the grenades were doing most of the heavy lifting anyway, so the trade-off for all this healing is well worth it. I hope you guys are enjoying Lightfall so far. I think next I'm going to look at how Voidwalker builds might be changing, but if there are any specific exotics or subclasses you'd like to see builds for, let me know in the comments down below. I know there's quite a few mods that were dropped in the transition to this new system, RIP Elemental Shards, but I think this is a good foundation for Bungie to build on, and I'm excited to see what comes next. So yeah, that's it for this one. See you guys on the flip side.